I'm Molly McGuy. I paint pictures of freeways mostly, and roads and industry, and sometimes there are living things among those places, like, you know, trees, and those end up in my paintings as well. I'm mostly interested in taking mundane, everyday things and making them, showing the beauty and interest that, like, everything around us is interesting, like that sort of that concept that everything around us is actually interesting, even if we don't see that it is, and help people see that it is. And so taking our commute or whatever it is and making it interesting, that's one aspect of it. The other important thing about that is that they're moving. Like, you're in a car and they're moving. And so you're seeing something coming at you and changing and growing. And I seem to be able to capture that sense of motion in my paintings. They're not all blurry. Some of them are really quite detailed and precise, but almost all of them have that sense of motion. For a long time, I just did stuff where you looked out the front of the car, right? And now I'm looking out the side of the car. So, and it's really cool because you're going 60 miles an hour and you're looking down into like the Soto Industrial Valley. And there's like trees right next to the freeway, right? So you get this like blur of a tree. And then beyond that, you can see, like, laid out in front of you, like this huge valley full of like warehouses and trucks and all the stuff that's out there. I do find a lot of beauty there. And that is kind of ironic. Like, that's just kind of weird, right? Because first of all, it's not really beautiful. I mean, most of the time, most of us are like, wow, this is really ugly, right? But I do see it as beautiful, and I try to find ways to make other people see it as beautiful, which has a lot to do with finding really good light. So there was this one day, I believe it was May 26th of 2013, and the light was just so amazing. Like, the sun was shining, and there were these amazing clouds, and it was sunset, and it was raining. And all those things were happening at the same time. And I got my husband to drive me around all around the valley, and like, we went across the West Seattle Bridge, and we went up and down I-5, and I took all these pictures. I have like 800 pictures from half an hour on that day. I'm hoping at some point I'm gonna have a show that's just those, because they're just so beautiful. This isn't one of them, but there's a bunch of them out there that are like that. Looking out the side, seeing it go whoosh, going by. It's, I'm really inspired about that right now. I think this might have a little bit to do with my family background, because I'm from Cleveland, which is a very industrial town, and my dad's an engineer. I come from kind of a family of engineers, and so thinking about like the industry and the structures, and that's another thing, it's just like these big engineered curves, you know, it's just like whoosh. So those shapes, they do a really nice job of filling the space on the canvas. They're dramatic, they really draw your eye. So I like working with those. That seems like home to me. So I think that that's an aspect of it that might be why I do this. Another aspect of things that I'm stressing in this show with Suze is that we both have kind of an environmental thing going on.
I am Suze Wolf. We both are, to some extent, disturbed by the alienation of humans from their environment. And she is representing that by looking at urban landscapes, and I'm looking at our impact in the wilderness.
We're seeing it as being two sides of the carbon cycle. So it's like, I'm about the cars and the industry that's like generating carbon and putting it in the atmosphere, and then she's going out into the wilderness and seeing the effects of it on actual, like on nature.
So we see an underlying concern and interest, if not a common subject matter.
And so what she's actually seeing is that forests have been burning, and she's showing burnt trees and really kind of loving those trees and showing, you know, all the details of them.
When we're both painting industrial landscapes, it's a more obvious commonality. I'm primarily a watercolor painter, mostly because it's portable, rapid, low toxicity, and there are things that are unique to the medium that you don't get in any other medium. For example, the way the colors mix themselves. So you see gradual tones fading into other tones. No other medium does that quite as well. These particular paintings of burned trees, I had painted a couple as close-up rectangles when I suddenly thought, wait a minute, this is paper I'm working on. I can make it any shape I want. I don't have stretchers, I don't have a wooden cradle, I can make it any shape. And why not have it be the shape of the tree that it is depicting? As a landscape painter in plein air, I'm used to being able to do a 11 by 15 landscape in a matter of 1 or 2 hours. So to come back and do something that takes me 1, 2, even 3 weeks in the studio takes a lot of discipline. I've probably done about 30 now, I think. I've sold a number of them. It's always surprising to me that someone wants a burned tree in their living room, but people who love them are very happy with them, and I have seen them in some really beautiful settings. I have been all over the American West painting these trees and looking at and recording these trees in one way or another. I've been interested in the increasing areas of burned over land throughout the wilderness since about 2003, when I first really began to be aware of it. But I've been artist in residence in the North Cascades on the east side, out of Stehekin. They've had something like 12 fires in 10 years there. I've been artist in residence in Zion National Park, where they've also had fires in the uplands. I did an artist residency at the Banff Center, which is the east side of the Canadian Rockies, lots of burned over areas there. So in all my travels around the West, I see this everywhere. And it's interesting to me how much they are different and how much they are the same. The nature of the fire, the nature of the trees, the structure of the individual tree, the environment, all interact in common and yet unique ways. And so that's why documenting a particular tree seems valid to me. I am primarily a landscape painter. It's not that I never do portraits or animals or anything, but the vast bulk of my work is landscape. And even these individual trees are, if you will, a landscape unto themselves. All of them, I think, have an element that is both beautiful but disturbing. There's something, like industrial scenes at night have a kind of drama from the lighting, from the environment that is almost built in. Likewise, burned trees and burned landscapes, they're creepy, they're unnerving, they're sad, they are a tragedy, and yet they force you to see the landscape in a completely new way. You don't see the familiar colors, the things that used to be hidden aren't hidden anymore. You see the topography. There are birds, animals, plants that are actually attracted to burned over areas that are part of the reseeding, regeneration process. So you see it with new eyes. I guess in some ways, like industrial landscapes too, there are lots of big verticals and very kind of powerful scenes. In a kind of digital age, when you can see so many things online, you would come see something in person. I can tell you that seeing something large is different than seeing it small. You feel it in your body when you see something that is closer to body size. These paintings are almost as big as I am, which is difficult for a watercolorist. And it has a different effect on you. I am convinced it's because you relate to it physically in a different way. When you see a small representation, it doesn't have that kind of visceral effect on you. And even though these are nowhere near their size in reality, this tree, is 30 or 40 inches in diameter at least, it's close enough, so much closer to your own size that you feel it as immense. You feel it as big. Whereas if you're only looking at a small image, you don't get that same sense. It's not that small paintings can have no effect, but that I do think you have a kind of personal, physical reaction when you see it in person and you realize what size things really are. I'm very proud of these paintings, and they have taken me many, many places throughout the West, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback about them, and people have told me that they've affected the way they see forests.
The exhibit is free and runs from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Centennial Center Gallery is located at 400 West Gow Street, next to Kent City Hall. Sponsored by Kent Arts Commission.